We are live. Joey, welcome to the show, mate.
Live and direct.
Welcome back, and hello and welcome to everybody out there who is joining us again. Maybe for your second and third time. We are really grateful to have you. This is our Own Your Gift, episode 12, where Joey and I, who I'm going to introduce in just a moment, love to share our experiences around gratitude. And we also have a very special guest on the show today, Tara Dixon, the mother, a painter and a gratitude enthusiast, which I can't wait to talk about some of that stuff. Joey, how are you doing, Joey?
I'm doing great today. Here in New Jersey, 75 degrees and sunny. And, I lived the hard life. I was in the park catching some sun and reading and meditating today. So for an hour and a half, 2 hours. So I don't have any complaints. And I always look forward. This is very quickly becoming my favorite part of the week is when I get to see you and we get to do this show for a little while and meet new people and add some value to people's lives best we can with our experience.
Absolutely. And for any of my Aussie viewers, that's 30 degrees we just worked out.
30 Celsius, yeah, 30 Celsius. No, 30 Celsius is 85 degrees.
Oh, 85.
I was saying that's my sweet spot. I need another 10 degrees before I'm like,
30,
yeah, that's nice.
30 is my sweet spot too. Guys, if you're joining us, please let us know where you're watching from. Drop in the comments where you're watching from. And let me introduce Tara. Let's get Tara on here. Hey, Tara.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
So good to be here.
I'm really looking forward to this discussion because one of the things, and you might have noticed in my LinkedIn profile, it's around gratitude. And Joey and I connect on that level of gratitude too. But you've got some stuff to share with us today that I'm really excited to learn around that creativity, the painting, and your gratitude stuff. So thank you so much for joining us. And I really, really look forward to hearing some more about this.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to sharing.
So, we tried this last week and I really liked doing this off the cuff is, just to start our discussion. If you're open, Tara, and I know Danny's game with sharing a win today with our audience, something that we struggled with today and something specific that we're grateful for today. I'll go first. My big win today was, I have a coach who helps me optimize my health, and I'm committed to an eating plan and an exercise plan. And last night I flew off the handle and had a Caesar salad, which isn't the most terrible thing, but definitely has croutons and cheese in it, and 4 slices of pizza with pepperoni on it. And when, in the mornings when I text him, my meals as I go, I thought to myself, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to bypass this one. I'm not going to tell him. And I did. I put it out there because that's why he's in that position. He's in that position. That's why an accountability to partner is so important, whether that be a friend or a mentor or a coach. And, if I didn't do that, I typically don't have a problem with white lies, but I know that shit would eat away at me. So that was a big win for me today. And something that I'm struggling with today, and probably often, but it was really glaring today, is not really having a filter between my brain and my mouth. And it definitely causes me problems in my personal relationships. And, I practice to try to pause before I speak. And sometimes the best thing is just to keep my mouth shut. And I didn't really do that well today. So tomorrow's another day. And something that I'm really grateful for today, which I'm always grateful for, but in the forefront of my mind, is the fact that I have all my senses and they work really well, and specifically my hearing, because whenever I music, to be able to listen to music, and it always soothes my soul, and it's just such a gift. And I definitely would like to express my gratitude for my ability to hear and feel and experience music, which changes my perspective quickly.
a great way to kick off the show, Joey. And I'm sure Tara's got a win for you today and a gratitude and something you've struggled with, Tara.
Okay, I'm game. So my big win would be orchestrating a lunch that involved kind of an estranged cousin. She's my favorite cousin, but we haven't spent so much time together. And she is my cousin by virtue of she is my uncle, my deceased uncle's daughter. And this is my mother had an older brother who died in the Korean War, and she was born while he was in Korea. And because of a rift in the families, they never got to know one another. But she showed up on my grandparents' doorstep when she was in her 20s, seeking out her grandparents, and she quickly became my favorite cousin because I thought she was so ballsy and like amazing to like resurface. So anyhow, the win was orchestrating lunch between Susan, the cousin, my mother, who is in assisted living and is 84 years old and has cognitive issues, and my sister. And it was so beautiful to have us all around the table. So that was a big, big win. And it was beautiful. I think I struggled with letting go and not micromanaging the details of this lunch and just allowing it to unfold. There was a lot of texting back and forth between my sister and if my mother was going to be, okay at the table, and everything was beautiful. So I think the struggle would be allowing the grace to unfold and just trusting. And my greatest gratitude is that my mother is still alive, and she actually is practicing present moment awareness more than any of us are on planet Earth. Struggling with dementia, she actually is living in the moment. And I'm so grateful that she is still alive and well, and that I have these moments with her.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Tara.
Thanks, Tara. Very, very family orientated stuff too. It reminds me back, 10 years ago, I had no understanding of the importance of that stuff. Tara, it's only 11 a.m. here for me. A win for me, I've got to say, it's probably, and it's a little bit boring, but it's just to get up at 5 a.m. and get my ass to the gym, unwanting to, knowing that I have such a full day of meetings and stuff to do today. So I did achieve that, and I guess my struggle in the same thing would be just coming off a big shift of work, like a 48-hour shift I do, which has just finished about an hour ago. I do get to rest there, but anyway, but then knowing that I had to jump on this show, knowing that I was going to, and this is my gratitude, knowing that the minute I turned on StreamYard and I started looking up the details and I got to meet with both of you guys, and Tara and I were just talking about New York City and Connecticut, was it, Tara?
Yeah.
And that stuff just sparks my spirit straight away. I know when I jump on this live that my spirits are going to be lifted. So thank you once again for being a part of this for me.
So good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, this is a show that was, I guess, birthed on our common belief that our adversity can be our greatest gifts, and a lot of time that points us towards our purpose, and obviously generating gratitude through purposeful practice. And Tara and I, when we met just a week ago, a mutual friend introduced us, and we had a conversation, and I did a little research and visited her website and got an opportunity to listen to her TED Talk, which I really enjoyed. And one of the key takeaways for me, and I'd like to use it as a kickoff for a discussion, was it seemed that I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but it was on a TED Talk, so it's free game. Your response to going through a divorce, which was obviously is adversarial in nature as it gets, was to turn to, your creative work, your art, to practice gratitude. And I think what I had heard was, in a 2-month period, you created 40 pieces of gratitude art. And you came out the other side and you had an experience. And so, like, I know Danny's interested in this. I'm definitely interested to hear a little bit more about that. Was it just your intuition that made you go to that? Was it very directed? And share your experience with us and some of the art that you created and whatever it is that you want to share.
Sure. I actually have been keeping a gratitude journal for a number of years prior to this experience. I dabbled with gratitude journals. So it was something that I was familiar with, the practice of gratitude, but it really was a complete gift that it came through my art. I was shocked by it myself. I was in the studio. A friend was over in the studio with me, and we were doing art together. Something I also enjoy doing is doing art with others in my studio, because being an artist can be a very solo, lonely pursuit. So I often enjoy people coming by the studio and creating together. So I happened to have a friend stop by, and we were both working side by side. And I was compelled to, my work is abstract in nature, and it's, I'm very fascinated with where sky meets either land or sea. So it's the horizon, is the composition. And I was compelled to flip around the paintbrush and etch into the layer of wet paint the words "thank you" over and over and over again in the sky field. And I looked down at the painting when I had run out of room, and I had all these thank yous in the sky area. And I turned to my friend and I said, "I just made a gratitude painting. What's up with that?"
Yeah.
And we both were kind of perplexed. And what I do is, when something like that comes through, I consider it to be a gift, and I want to push it to the nth degree. I don't just do one-off. I work in series. So the next day I went to the art supply store and I ordered 39 more canvases. And I knew that I was going to make 40. I intuitively was guided that I was going to make 40 canvases of the same composition. They'd be different colorways, and explore whatever was meant to come through. And probably as it was progressing, the third or fourth day, I realized, I was like, it dawned on me, my husband just moved out. Like, this is a tool. Gratitude is a tool. And I began to use this time of creating these little paintings as a meditative time, and they became mantras. And also I dedicated that time to reflecting upon something good that we had experienced during our 18 years together. So each painting was a devotional dedication to like an homage of something good. And some of the things that I was grateful for were the fact that we had traveled the world together, that we had that I had always maintained a studio, that had been a priority of his and mine, and that he was supportive of the fact that I was an artist and that I had been able to maintain a studio. And then I'd say the last 20 of the 40 were dedicated to the son that we had together. We have one child who was now, he was 11 at the time. He's now 23. But the last 20 paintings were dedicated to the fact that we had this child together. And I cite in the TED Talk, and I'll cite it here, one of the color combinations of this gratitude painting was aqua and black. And the reason why those colors are so important to me, and it is a reminder of a very specific memory I shared with my son. We went to the Matisse retrospective at the Museum of Modern Art, and I remember playing a game with him and commenting to him, "Wow, Matisse must have really liked these colors together, black and teal." And how about we say to one another whenever we see this color combination? And my son got so into it. He must have been like 8 or 9 at the time. And he went bounding from gallery to gallery. Mommy, look, there's black and teal. There's black and teal. Look, here he painted it again. There's black and teal. So this little gratitude painting that's black and teal is of that memory. So that's how I work. I work very associatively with thoughts and symbolism. But so I amassed 40 gratitude paintings. And by the end of the 2 months, I was surrounded and I was bathed in gratitude, and I experienced a shift. I was grateful. I was able to part ways with my former husband in peace and in an elevated state, rather than many other ways that it could have gone.
Cool. It looks like Laurie. Let me just put this comment up. Laurie's a proud owner of a gratitude painting. Do you know Laurie?
Of course I do.
Yes,
I love Laurie. Hi, Laurie.
Hey, Laurie. Thanks for letting us know, and thank you also to David for joining us too. What an amazing story! There's so much power in that stuff, and I kind of understand a little bit about how that works for you, Tara. But can I just mention, Joey, before you jump in? I was thinking about my daughter. I've got a beautiful 4-year-old, almost 4-year-old daughter, and she's got her paintings and her drawings, and it's one of those things like that really obviously puts her in the moment as well when drawing. I'm not a big artist. I used to be in my younger days. I used to love it, but yeah, it really reminded me of that peace and happiness that she has with art as well. So, and that's amazing. And I also see the benefits totally in really like dedicating each painting to a particular sort of moment. It's like acknowledging the amazing things that you did have. You're not talking about any of the negatives. You're talking about all the positives, the glass half full, acknowledging them, feeling them, and sort of letting them go. Yeah,
yes.
That's what I got from it. You know.
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. Joey?
Just hearing that story makes me want to paint. I've never painted before. We might have to get together. You might need to give me a lesson.
No, I have something to say about that before you go on, and that is, it's an invitation to play. So when we all get together, all we need to do is lay out the materials and go to town and invite your 5-year-old along and pretend you're 5 again and just play.
I love that. I'm in. I had an experience that I shared last week that is pertinent to that. And, I had a little moment in the park, and it just, I wasn't like going into meditation, or typically my meditation is really, on purpose. It's like, okay, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes and I'm going to visualize on this. And rarely do I find myself falling into meditation. This is part of, I think, part of my struggles and you mentioned something just now about playing, and you also mentioned it in your TED talk, giving yourself permission to play. And a little bit about my story, and most people know this who's listening, but, I lived a life, in active addiction where I did whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. And that included like not following any rules, not taking any direction, not following the law. And what that created for me, which, I thought that meant freedom. Like I thought doing whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted meant freedom. And what it ultimately ended up creating is a self-imposed prison, and almost literally a prison. And, when I first gotten sober, one of the things, I got a lot sicker before I got any better. And, I fell into self-pity and victimhood, and I turned to food, and I got really sick, and I put on, like close to 200 pounds. And there was a moment, during those times, I literally, had driven myself into a state of mind where it was hard for me to even move, to even get out of bed every day. And how I worked through that once I made a decision to actually jump into the stream of life is by being really purposeful and very regimented and disciplined and creating really healthy habits for myself, starting really small and letting them grow. And I became very systematic, and it worked for me. It still works for me. But now I'm in a place where I think it might be hindering my growth, and certainly not allowing me to plug into creativity, which seems to take place in more of an unfocused state, or when you're playing. And I started this off, but you mentioned a 5 years old. When I was about 3 or 4, I was laying. I had this little vision in the park the other day. I had this. I used to lay in my grandma's backyard in the grass, and I remember staring at the clouds, and I was just, I was in awe. I was in wonder. It just amazed me the way they move, and the sky and the clouds and how we all fit in. And I was really, really, really young. And I had this flashback the other day in the park, and my eyes were closed, and I was was really laying into it and really enjoying it. And I opened my eyes, and there was a little girl. She was, I don't know, maybe 2, maybe 3, that had scooted up to me, and I didn't realize to her. And she was coming at me fast, and her father was kind of trying to catch her. And she came right up to me, and she handed me this soccer ball, and she hugged my leg, and she wouldn't let go. And it just, I think, it's not a coincidence that I was in this childlike state of mind, and I attracted this child.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of what that made me think of.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, Joey. Yeah, the gratitude. Look, and Joey said this to me today. I've got a similar story to Joey, Tara, with that background around a long time out there in the carnage of addiction. But the last 11 and a half years, I've started to experience what happiness was and what gratitude was and what serenity is, and also a spiritual connection, which I'm talking about, my spirit being alive. And that's why, and I can't always have that. And I just want to state this because sometimes people ask me, why are you always smiling, Danny? And you seem so happy. And I just want to acknowledge also that, we can't always have that happiness, can we? Because if we did, it probably wouldn't feel as good if we were always happy. And Tara, I noticed that part of what I heard from you is you're a gratitude enthusiast too. So you've got your painting, you've got your work, and I'm a gratitude enthusiast, absolutely. And I know Joey is. Well, can you share a bit more about gratitude with us?
I'm sorry, say it again. Share a bit more.
Yeah. What else do you do with your life to improve your levels of happiness and gratitude?
Well, something that I wanted to share when you were speaking of what you were just talking about is a little anecdote. I was at a shrine in Kyoto, Japan, and I was with my former husband and our son, who was 5 at the time. And a monk was sweeping the garden, and he was in his gown, and he turned to our son and he said in pretty good English, he spoke very good English, he said, "Do you know where happiness lies?" And my son is 5, and he said, I don't know. Yeah, no. And he said, happiness exists where sorrow. No. Do you know where? Okay, let me get this right. Do you know where joy exists? And joy exists where happiness and sorrow meet. That's what he said. A monk in Japan.
Yeah, cool. Very, very wise.
So when happiness and sorrow, that's joy. where they overlap and where they meet is where you find joy.
Yeah, sure.
So I just wanted to share that little anecdote because it flashed before me. But other things that I do, I actually did a workshop when I spent 2018 living in Bali. I rented out my place here in Brooklyn, and my son was off in college, and I just decided that I wanted to go explore there for a year. And I did a workshop while I was out there, and we had to come up with I am statements in this day-long workshop. And they were definitions of who you are at your core essence and kind of like your mission statement. And I came up with my 2 I am statements are, I am radiantly grateful, and I am an explorer of joy. So those are my, that's how I spend most of my days. Like, I don't know, like I paint and I walk around and I look at things and I try to practice present moment awareness. But I those are kind of my I am statements that I say. I am radiantly grateful and I am an explorer of joy. So I often just ruminate over those and try to see where those will lead me throughout my day.
Yeah, I love it. That you're my kind of person, you know. I do. I am. It's got me thinking, Joey. I am. Who are you? I am. You know. I think about this often too. And do you know, Tara, we're given, like, I'll talk for myself, but I'm given this huge gift being on this journey of recovery, right? So things like that, questions like that were put to you when you were away at that camp or retreat that you did. I guess they're questions that come up for me very often in my day, in my work. And I know one of the things that I am is, I guess, is kindness is something that I've determined in my life really helps improve my happiness and also my gratitude. But I am kind, but I work really hard I love to make people smile. So I feel like it's my job as a human being and also as a man in recovery who's been through a lot of shit and comes out the other side often. I see the power in being able to just say hello to some random stranger, give them some time, smile at people, and just sort of and see them smile as well. You know, that's something that's a beautiful thing, a gift, I guess, of recovery and a gift of gratitude too. Sorry, I just went a bit off track then, but yeah, I love that stuff.
And it comes in really handy to have these I am statements. I had a dream. It actually was a nightmare the other night. And I was being questioned as to who I was. And it was I can't really recall all details of the dream, but it was very dark and insidious. And it was threatening. I was very threatened. And in the dream, I was able to access my I am statements. And I just kept on saying them over and over to the people questioning me. I am radiantly grateful and I am an explorer of joy. And it was like these 2 things that I knew for sure. And I was saying them in my dream, which was a very threatening situation. So that was kind of weird.
Yeah, powerful, very powerful. Joey?
Yeah, it got into your subconscious, you know, from saying it all the time and focusing on it and living it. You know, when people often ask me who are you, you know, and like one thing I know for certain is like I'm not my past, and you know I try to aim for just being a human amongst humans, because my sickness, my lower nature separates me from humans, which is what the ego does. I automatically position myself in an inferior or superior position, which means I am not the field is not level. And that's where judgment comes in, judgment of myself, judgment of others, and where I get separated from everything else in the universe. But in the end, like I am what I pay attention to.
Yes.
And so like I'm what I do when nobody's watching, and I get to create that moment to moment to moment by through my focus, through my thoughts, through my actions, through my attitude, through my behaviors. And like I get to decide that, which is something that I never knew. I never knew that I got to decide who do I want to be? What type of man do I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world? Like, what type of son do I want to be? What type of, brother do I want to be? What type of, friend do I want to be? Like, how do I want to, how do I want to contribute to the world? Like, what do I want to leave behind when I'm gone? And like, I get to create that. Like I get to create that moment to moment to moment through my focus, through what I'm paying attention to.
I love that.
And yeah, it's kind of like what you were saying about like gratitude, right? It's this higher force. It's always available to us. It's infinitely giving. However, we need to plug into it. And that means we need tools, exercises, rituals, routines, meditations, visualizations, however it is, it works for you. For you, it's painting or some of those other tools, but it's there for us to plug into, but we have to align with it, and that requires effort on our part. So
absolutely, and we have to, like you were talking about, paying attention. In order to be grateful, you have to be highly aware, so that you know what you're grateful for. So you're using it's a sensory experience. So you're grateful for the smell of fresh bread coming out of the oven. So like you have to be aware and conscious to pick up on these sensory details throughout your day. In order to be grateful, you have to be paying attention. And P.S., that slows time down. I have this whole theory that, we're all saying it's rushing, time is rushing, and time goes by so fast. But if you practice gratitude, time slows down because you're in the moment and you're moment by moment having these sensory experiences, and time really slows down.
Yeah, that's part of the, what I was talking about before about, being a doer, being like very regimented. I become a moving target. Like I'm able to plug into these forces very purposefully, but in general, like, I don't think if I'm always moving to the next thing or moving towards something, like I'm really not in the present moment. I've heard it said like, a human doing instead of a human being. So that's been my inner work is learning to slow it down, learning to try to be more present, to open my eyes, to look up, once in a while. And if I have my head down, like working on something, whether that be myself or my business or whatever, like, can I look up and have my head down, like driving forward at the same time? I don't think so.
And when you look up, you see those clouds passing by.
Yeah, those beautiful clouds. Yeah, so Danny this morning, or maybe it was last night. I always get screwed up about what time it is there. He WhatsApps me these voice messages. I don't know if it's in the middle of the night or it's like he always says that we're talking to the future. So we actually are talking to the future. But so at some point yesterday, Danny sent me a message and he's like, "Man, I woke up this morning and I couldn't and I put it in the post and I got it from your TEDx talk, and from what I understand is throughout the process of this 2-month process of creating these 40 paintings, you landed on this formula. And Danny's like, I love that formula. He's like, that should be our tagline. I'm like, I don't think I can take credit for this, but the formula was love plus gratitude, like love, all caps, plus gratitude with a capital G equals magic with a capital M plus miracles with a lowercase m. So why don't you tell us a little about that?
Ampersand, miracles, all lowercase.
Yeah, we love it. We love it, Pollaro. That's
Danny wants to steal it and make it our
No, I don't, but like I really felt that, like love and gratitude equals magic and miracles. Like for someone, and like for someone coming from where I came from and had absolutely not one single tiny bit of happiness or serenity in my life, and then to be able to experience that stuff too and tap into it, it really does feel like magic and miracles often. You know,
Yes,
it's
yes.
so perfect.
I'd love to share with you how that came to me, because
Yeah, please do.
I was in a meditation, and I often keep with me a journal, because coming out of meditation, I will get ideas or downloads, or so I had a journal at the ready and a pen, and I sometimes hear that voice. We all have that voice inside of us. It's that higher intuition, that deep knowing, inner knowing. But I heard the voice, and the voice said, "Get a pen." And so I had my pen, and the voice warned me that this is as important as E equals MC squared. And that totally got my attention. I was like, whoa, what is this? And so I wrote down the dictation: love, all caps, plus gratitude, capital G, equals magic, capital M, ampersand, miracles, all lowercase. And I just wrote that down. And then I said, okay, all right, I'm going to just try this out. Like, this is a theorem. This is a formula. Let's try it out. So I started breaking down that formula and seeing what would come of it. And what I realized was that when I made the choice to open up my heart greater than what I thought was possible, when you almost hear a creaking door and you're like, no, it can't open up any further. It's like closed, and like, but when you creak open your heart, it's like, Arr! And you expand your heart and you love, just a little bit more. And combining that open-hearted energy with utterly on your knees gratitude, that's when this vortex would open up, and the magic and the miracles would come swooping in every time. And I just started to, documented this on social media. I started using the hashtag love plus gratitude equals magic and miracles. And I just played with it. And it's true. It's like, I am convinced of it. So it's a good one. And you're welcome to use it.
I'm convinced
of it. It's for all of us.
Yeah, of course.
Danny already has the license plate.
It's just, look, I guess I love it because I felt it. I know it.
You know it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, very
cool.
You
know when the truth hits you, because it's like most higher forces. Like it gets in you, it moves you and inspires you and rouses you into action. That's how you know you've been struck. That's what they say, struck by the truth. Yeah. It doesn't just, you don't just stumble upon it. Like the real truth, you get struck by it, and like you were struck by it. And I love how you said download. It's like, and you also mentioned E equals MC squared, which is, obviously Albert Einstein, and he has a belief that, there is no original material. It's all there. It's all there, and we just need to figure out how to either open to receive or to plug in, but it's all there in the universe already.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. I really dug that.
It's quite like, wouldn't you say, like to get to that point where you can really feel it, and that there's quite a lot of things that have to line up too, isn't it? Like gratitude and love and that magic and miracles doesn't just come easy. We just say, like, I know, like, I wish we could just give it away. I wish I could give it away. I wish I could give it to my clients who are struggling, at work. But it takes hard work. You don't just get this stuff through hoping for it.
Yeah. And as far as the love is self-love is, I think the hardest one of all is, it's easy to just dole out this love externally, but really opening up to this internal self-love is a key, to accessing the divine, and it exists within us.
It's a really good point. You know, one of the general themes that's coming out of this today, one of the things that I'm hearing is that being in the moment is important. You know what I mean? And meditation is also another thing that's attached to this gratitude, that self-care and self-love. And it's not something like, for example, if you've come from a life where you've got no gratitude, you can't possibly tap into it quickly on a regular basis if you don't sort of work towards it and have that self.
It's a muscle. It definitely is a muscle. It's
yes,
like
that's what
it's
it
like
is.
going to the gym, and it gets better and better and better. And you don't always want to go to the gym. You don't always want to be grateful. But when you choose to be grateful, the benefits are so, beneficial. And I really feel that it is a muscle, just like receiving is a muscle. You know, sometimes we shut off receiving, but we can flex that muscle and learn how to receive more. And we can learn how to be, flex our gratitude muscles as well.
Very good. I love it. Gratitude's a muscle. We could use that tagline too, Joe.
Yeah, that's in the that's next week.
So
but it's
true.
so true though. It's like sometimes we get like, I've had the, God shot, so to speak, where you get, just like God throws you a bone or the universe throws you a bone and you're just flooded with gratitude. But most of the time I'm not grateful. However, like my gratitude practice almost always generates gratitude, feelings of gratitude. It's almost never the other way around. So like there needs to be, I need to be in forward motion, or actually practicing it in order for me to feel it, aside from the general gifts, because in general, like, I take most things for granted and I have everything. So like, that's kind of my default thinking is like, like what how I'm messing up or how I'm not enough, or like what I want that I can't have, or, what I have that someone's going to take. And like, so that's, we're talking about identifying the voices in our head, and I have both. Like I said, I'm a human amongst humans, and that means I'm half and half, man. Like I believe I'm half good and half bad. I don't know if those are the right adjectives, but let's just say half light and half dark, like everything else in the universe. Like you can't have one without the other.
Absolutely.
But the key is to be able to identify which of those voices is of our lower nature and which is of our higher nature, so we know where to direct our focus.
Right. And also where we aim to, something I learned, one of the greatest lessons I learned while I was out in Bali, I became friends with a Balinese priest, and he taught me, he was also an art dealer and he had an art studio, and he was a Balinese priest. And he taught me, he's like, you foreigners, you all want to be great. He says, when you ask, how are you? You all want to be great. And he said, no, that's not what you want to strive for. You want to strive for normal. And he explained to me that where black and white meet is gray. And gray is what you're striving for, not the spikes, not like everything's great.
Gray is good.
Gray, like normal, and it's called in Balinese, it's called biasa. So biasa is the state of grace of, it's like where black and white meet in the yin yang symbol, where the black and the white meet is called biasa. It's that state of normalness.
Cool.
Isn't that cool?
That is real cool.
It is cool. We're going to wrap it up in a minute, but can I just add to, like, I love how the conversation really, it takes a bit of time, but I feel like we're all in the moment at the moment. But do you guys ever, just a question, do you ever take a day off of being grateful? Like sometimes I'm just not in the mood, and I know I'm aware of my state, and I just go, you know what? Nah, not today. I'm just going to take a day off. And it's almost like my defects. I just let all my defects run loose for a time, because it's exhausting to be on our best behavior all the time. Do you get that? Do you ever do that?
I actually, Danny, I battled depression, and my gratitude practice is a barometer as to how I'm doing with my mental health. And when I have abandoned my gratitude practice, I am in a depressed state.
Yeah, sure.
As far as what you're talking
Yes.
about, taking a day off, yeah, sure. I mean, we can't be all superheroes all the time, but I just wanted to be honest and transparent about the fact that when I abandon my practice, I'm usually in a trough. I'm in a low. And
Yeah.
there's a correlation between the depression and the lack of gratitude. And
true. Yeah.
flipping that switch is often hard to, you know,
Yes,
if you're in a deep depression, it's hard to access the light switch. It just is.
It's been a long time for me. You know, I'm scared to give up on those practices. You know, we're talking about higher forces here, and momentum is one of them. And if I stay consistent and I keep my daily practices, most specifically my gratitude practice, really small and doable and non-negotiable, I don't have to get into that state of mind. Not to say that I don't get a bad attitude sometimes. I usually wake up, you know, in a ton of fear with a ton of negativity flowing through my mind, but I jump right into my daily practices. Yeah. So like, I haven't had like a, you know, any significant amount of time, longer than moments, you know, where I've chose to like, you know, really feed that dark side and say, fuck it. And like, get like this apathetic, you know, state of mind. Because I'm terrified of it. Like I'm terrified to stop, you know what I mean? Which is why, you know, in the beginning of this show, I was mentioning that like, you know, I'm a doer, because I have this probably irrational fear that if I stop, I'm not going to be able to start the engine again. So I haven't had a ton of, I don't take days where I say, fuck it, I'm just going to be a jerk off, or I'm going to have a bad attitude. And, you know, I do have my moments though, like I said, and I'd like to thank David Alto for diagnosing me for foot and mouth disease. Guys had said earlier in the show that, you know, I have a problem with, you know, that pausing before I speak, and when I should keep my mouth shut, I run it. He said, oh, you have foot and mouth disease, foot in mouth disease.
Joey, on that, I love hearing what you just said, Joey, because I don't let it happen for too long too, but I do take a day or at least a few hours sometimes. I just want to acknowledge too, I don't know about you, but I believe like human beings, I think we enjoy some misery. I know this actually. Like it feels good to be in self-pity and playing a victim, and sometimes I like to just plug into that for just a couple of hours. It might sound a bit twisted, but it's all part of that finding the grey anyway, I think. Yeah, it really is.
And, Joey, having the compassion as far as highs and lows, you know, like we're 70% made of water, and we don't get mad at the weather systems on planet Earth. You know, like when it's a high tide, we're not like, how dare you be high tide, or, you know, it's low tide. Like, how dare you be low tide? We have ups and downs. We have highs and lows. You know, we're made out of water. We're going to have these rhythms. And so having compassion, I think, is really something I've learned, self-compassion, and just knowing that, you know, there's going to be these waves.
Definitely. At this point of our meeting today, Joey and I wrap it up each week, Tara, with we talk about our tips, tricks, and hacks to get gratitude. So I would like you to share one of your favorite tips on becoming a happier and more grateful person. Joey, do you want to kick us off?
I mean, so much was covered here today. Most of the show was about, you know, tips, tools, exercise, and strategies to plug into the force of gratitude. But what comes to mind to me, and this falls into, you know, I am what I pay attention to, is it's more of a timing thing. It's important. I have timed gratitude practice, but what I'd like to suggest is to use time when our minds are undirected to practice gratitude. Like I like to call it garbage time, like when I'm in line at the bank, or like I'm in traffic. And when my mind is undirected, if I'm not creating something with my mind, in this case, we're talking about gratitude, my mind is destroying something. And it's usually my self-esteem, my self-worth, my relationships, my perspectives. So a good time to practice gratitude is when your mind is undirected. That's my tip.
I'd like to echo that. I was going to echo that, like in line, if you're in traffic, I know, if you're running late, if you are in that and you're about to go into stress mode of I'm running late, I'm keeping someone waiting, I often turn to gratitude and use it as something that's going to appease the situation and lower my stress levels and be productive rather than destructive, like you were talking about.
Beautiful. What about you, Danny boy? Got one last tip for us?
Yeah, sure. I've got a cracker, right? I run this group occasionally around improving our levels of happiness. And they say, like, and you guys have just reminded me of it, like, say we write a gratitude list, right, on paper. That can improve our level of happiness between 2 to 4% just instantly, right? But if we make a phone call or if we bump into someone who's had an impact on our life today and we let them know how much we appreciate the input that they've had on us, we can improve our levels of happiness by up to 19%. Studies have shown this. When we express our gratitude to someone else, it can make us feel happier. So I say be brave. It's an uncomfortable thing to do sometimes, but let somebody else know the impact, the positive impact that they have had on your life today.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Great way to wrap it up.
Thank you so much, Tara, for joining us. I really love this chat. I could go on, actually. I've got a meeting on.
Yeah, I know you do. Yeah,
thank you so much for having me as a guest.
Thank you so much for doing this, Tara. This was a beautiful show, and hopefully some people were helped.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thanks, Laurie, Maddie. We had someone from Indonesia to win. We win. Appreciate you joining us. Might be one of your friends, Tara, Jean. Much appreciated. David and everyone else who's joined us without commenting. We really do appreciate your support each week. Tara, hang with us for a minute. I'm going to end the broadcast. Bye-bye.